In the shimmering glow of distant stars, the planet of Novara was home to a grand and ancient alien civilization. The inhabitants of Novara lived in harmony with the universe. Among them, a young princess named Alvera shined like a bright comet in the dark sky. Her beauty was known far and wide, and her heart was filled with dreams of change and unity. Princess Alvera had grown up in a world of strict rules and old traditions. Her family ruled the planet with a wise but cautious hand. Every decision was made by following long-held customs that had been passed down for many generations. Yet, Alvera felt that these traditions were too rigid and did not allow for new ideas or connections with other worlds. She dreamed of a future where her people could learn from others and where differences could bring strength rather than fear. One day, in the grand hall of the palace, filled with the soft glow of crystal lights and the gentle hum of ancient music, Alvera stood before her council. The hall was vast and decorated with symbols of the past. There were statues of old heroes and murals of great battles. But despite the many reminders of history, the young princess was ready to write a new chapter. Alvera cleared her throat and spoke in a clear, steady voice. "I call upon all the people of Novara and the neighboring stars," she began, her words echoing through the hall. "I announce a new decree. I wish to form a union that will bring our people closer to those beyond our borders. I will seek a partner who is different from us, a human from Earth." A murmur of shock and disbelief passed through the council. Many had heard stories of Earth and its people. They were said to be simple and unremarkable, not like the graceful and wise beings of Novara. However, Alvera was not moved by these old tales. She believed that within the human spirit lay qualities that could strengthen her people, qualities of courage, creativity, and an indomitable will to succeed. The princess knew that her choice would stir controversy. Some council members whispered among themselves, questioning whether a human could ever understand the deep traditions of Novara. Yet, Alvera remained firm. She explained that the union was not just a matter of love or duty, but a bridge to a better future. "Our strengths lie in our differences," she said. "It is time to learn from the courage and resilience that many humans have shown in their struggle to survive and thrive." Outside the palace, the news of the princess's decree spread quickly. Citizens gathered in the open squares and busy markets, talking in low, excited voices. Some were curious, while others were filled with doubt. Yet all eyes turned to the young princess who had dared to challenge the old ways. Alvera's heart was filled with a mix of hope and determination. She knew that the path ahead would be filled with obstacles, but she also believed that change was necessary. As she walked through the palace gardens later that evening, under a sky full of sparkling stars, she thought of the human she would meet. In her dreams, she saw a brave and kind soul, someone who had faced many hardships and yet had never lost hope. She imagined this person as a symbol of what could be achieved when different worlds came together. The young princess spent many hours in her private chamber, writing letters and plans for her journey. She consulted ancient texts and modern maps that charted the paths between stars. The more she learned about the human world, the more her excitement grew. In the quiet of the night, her thoughts were filled with visions of distant lands and new possibilities. She dreamed of walking among the busy streets of Earth, hearing the sounds of a vibrant, living planet, and finding the human who could be her partner in building a better future for her people. The decree was just the first step in her ambitious plan. It was a bold move that broke with tradition, and it was a challenge to the established order. Yet, Alvera was prepared to face any resistance with calm determination. She believed that by opening the doors to new ideas and alliances, she could help her kingdom grow stronger. Her decree was not only a personal desire, but also a call to her people to embrace change and hope for a brighter future. As the days passed, the council began to see the wisdom in her words. Some even started to admire her courage. Even though doubts remained, the seed of change had been planted. The young princess stood as a beacon of progress, ready to lead her people into a new era where differences would no longer be seen as weaknesses, but as the foundation for unity and strength. Late that night, As the palace slept, the princess wandered along the moonlit corridors. The walls of the ancient structure whispered old secrets, and the soft light from the countless stars outside shone through large windows. In these quiet moments, Alvera allowed herself to feel both the weight of her decision and the hope that it carried. She knew that change would not come easily, but she also felt a deep conviction that this path was right. The gentle hum of the palace's energy systems, combined with the rustling of silk garments and the faint sound of distant music, created a calm environment in which her thoughts could flow freely. In that quiet midnight hour, Alvera felt a surge of hope. With firm resolve, she embraced the future, ready for the challenges that lay ahead and new dreams. Captain Elias Mercer was a kind and thoughtful man from Earth. He lived in a quiet town near a busy city, where he was known for his calm nature and willingness to help anyone in need. Elias had grown up in a family that valued honesty, hard work, and care for others. Even as a child, he learned that true strength came not from wealth or power, but from kindness and resilience. As he grew older, his steady determination earned him respect among his neighbors and colleagues. Every day, Elias went about his work with simple dedication. He volunteered at the local community center, helped repair broken fences for elderly neighbors, and always made time to listen to the worries of his friends. His life was ordinary, yet filled with small acts of kindness that made a big difference. In the evenings, after a long day of service, Elias would often look up at the stars, wondering about the vast universe beyond his small world. He dreamed of distant galaxies and imagined that somewhere there might be others who shared his values and hope. One warm summer night, while Elias was walking home under a clear sky, an unexpected event unfolded. A bright, gentle light streaked across the heavens, and a soft hum filled the air. Stopping in his tracks, Elias looked up in wonder. In the distance, he saw a small craft descending slowly onto a nearby field. The sight was both strange and beautiful, filling his heart with curiosity and a sense of destiny. As he approached the landing site, Elias noticed that the craft was unlike any machine he had seen before. It was adorned with smooth curves and glimmering lights that danced across its surface. The door of the craft opened, and a calm, melodic voice spoke in a language that was not his own. Though he did not understand every word, the tone was respectful and kind. In that moment, Elias sensed that his life was about to change in ways he had never imagined. Back on the distant planet of Novara, young Princess Alvera had been watching Earth with great interest. She had issued a bold decree to find a human partner who could help her break the old traditions and build a bridge between her world and the stars. Alvera had learned of Earth's many virtues through ancient texts and modern stories. Among all the humans, she believed that someone like Elias Mercer, humble, brave, and full of hope, could be the perfect symbol of unity and progress. When news of the mysterious craft reached Earth, it was not long before local media reported the event. The story spread quickly, and soon everyone in Elias's town was talking about the strange visitor from the sky. Some people were excited, while others were worried about the unknown. Yet through all the chatter, Elias remained calm. He did not seek fame or attention. His heart was full of quiet determination to understand the message behind the arrival. In the days that followed, a group of gentle envoys from Novara arrived on Earth. They explained that Princess Alvera had chosen a human candidate who embodied the best qualities of Earth's people. They invited Elias to join them on a journey to Novara, where he would represent Earth and help form a new alliance between the two worlds. The invitation was both an honor and a great responsibility, and Elias felt the weight of the decision upon him. For many nights, Elias sat by his window, gazing at the stars and thinking deeply about his future. He considered the challenges that lay ahead, learning new customs, communicating in unfamiliar languages, and understanding a culture that was very different from his own. Despite these uncertainties, his heart told him that this was a chance to learn and grow. His love for humanity and his strong belief in peace and understanding gave him the courage to accept the invitation. Before his departure, Elias underwent thorough training. He attended classes that taught him basic communication in the language of Novara, learned about alien customs, and studied the principles of interstellar diplomacy. His teachers admired his natural curiosity and his willingness to adapt. They believed that his simple, honest nature and his strong sense of duty would serve him well on this long journey. As the day of his departure drew near, the people of his town gathered to say farewell. They came to the small station where the space vessel awaited. With warm smiles and heartfelt words, they wished him safe travels and hoped that he would return with new wisdom and stories of the stars. Though there was a tinge of worry in their eyes, they trusted that Elias's gentle heart and clear mind would guide him well. Finally, the moment arrived. Clad in a simple uniform that marked him as an ambassador of Earth, Elias stepped aboard the spacecraft. With one last look at the place he had always known, he felt a mix of sadness and excitement. As the engines hummed softly and the craft began to lift, Elias's heart beat steadily with anticipation. He knew that his journey to Novara was not just a voyage through space, but a journey toward a brighter future for both his people and the many worlds beyond. In that silent moment of ascent, under the watchful eyes of countless stars, Captain Elias Mercer embarked on a new chapter of his life. His path was uncertain, and challenges lay ahead, but his spirit was strong. Elias carried with him the hope of his town, the trust of his people, and the promise of a new alliance that would unite distant worlds with understanding and respect. Grew smaller and smaller beneath him. There were no more busy streets or familiar faces, only the vast, starry expanse of space. His heart was full of emotions, excitement, fear, and a sense of destiny. This was no ordinary journey. He was traveling to Novara, a world he had only read about in ancient texts, to fulfill a promise made by the young Princess Alvera. She had chosen him, a human, to help her form a bond that would bridge the gap between two very different worlds. The thought of it was both humbling and thrilling. The spacecraft, sleek and filled with advanced technology, hummed softly around him. Elias glanced away from the stars to the crew of aliens that surrounded him. They were all so different from him, taller, with features not quite human, yet they regarded him with curiosity, respect, and even warmth. There was Zarin, a skilled pilot with sharp violet eyes. Lyra, a scientist whose skin shimmered like the surface of a crystal, and Dorian, a diplomat with a calm, reassuring demeanor. Soon, he would be working alongside these beings, learning their ways, navigating the complex relationships that spanned across galaxies. Elias had been briefed on many things, both the strengths and weaknesses of the Novaran people. Alvara's world was beautiful and peaceful, millions of years old, yet its society had begun to grow stagnant. Its customs were rooted in the past, its ideas locked in tradition. She wanted change, and to bring that change, she believed a human spirit, a spark of courage and adaptability, was necessary. Fortunately, Elias understood the importance of change. Back on Earth, he had seen it before, how new ideas were always met with resistance, but how, in time, those ideas had paved the way for better lives. The first leg of the journey passed quickly as the crew focused on the mechanics of space travel. Elias found himself drawn to conversations with the crew members. Zarin, the pilot, told intriguing stories about distant planets, while Lyra explained the advanced technology that powered the spacecraft, including the artificial gravity that allowed them to move freely in the zero-gravity environment. But it was Dorian, the diplomat, who spent the most time with Elias, helping him adjust to the culture of Novara. Dorian was patient, understanding Elias's concerns and answering his many questions. "You'll find that Novarans are deeply thoughtful individuals," Dorian said one evening as they sat near the spacecraft's central hub. "They value knowledge, history, and the wisdom that is passed down through generations. Changing a society like Novara's will take time, but change is possible if you approach it with an open heart." Elias listened carefully, absorbing all he could. He realized that whether or not he was ready for this responsibility, The fate of two worlds was in his hands. But this wasn't just about politics. Princess Alvera wasn't seeking a mere political alliance. Elias had seen it in her eyes, even from a distance. The desire for something more meaningful, something that could unite their peoples on a deeper level. He didn't just need to learn about Novara. He needed to understand its people, hear their stories, and most importantly, show them the strength of humanity. The days stretched on, and as the ship passed through the vast emptiness of space, Elias could almost feel himself changing. He had always been just a regular man from a simple town, nothing extraordinary. But now that he had left Earth, he felt like someone with a larger purpose, someone carrying the hopes of many. One afternoon, the spacecraft passed the edge of a colorful nebula. The light from the nebula rippled through space, filling the ship's interior with an iridescent glow. For a moment, Elias stood on the observation deck, mesmerized by the beauty of it all. He had been to many places on Earth, but nothing compared to this. Here, in the depths of space, he was confronted with the infinite, the unknown. But with every breathtaking view came reminders of the challenges ahead. He would meet Alvera soon, and he was not sure what to expect. Would she truly accept him? Would the Novaran people accept him? Or would they see him as an outsider, someone too foreign to understand their ways? As if reading his thoughts, Dorian approached and placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "Massive changes don't happen overnight," he said, his voice soft. "But you will do your part. Do not doubt that for a moment." Elias nodded, taking a deep breath. The journey was far from over, but each day brought him closer to the heart of Novara. He thought about the princess, her determination to bring something new to her world, and how similar their struggles were. He knew what it was like to fight for a better future for his people, just as she did. Another week passed, and as they neared Novara, the excitement in the crew became palpable. The countdown to their arrival was now ticking. The closer they got, the more Elias felt the weight of his decision resting on him. He would be meeting Alvera, the young princess who had dared to defy the old ways. He would become part of the story, that bridge between humanity and the stars. The spacecraft finally entered Novara's orbit, and through the windows, Elias got his first glimpse of the alien civilization. The planet was covered in lush forests, gleaming oceans, and rich, sparkling cities. It looked like a dream, a place full of ancient beauty and future promise. They approached a magnificent palace, the pinnacle of Novara's architecture, strong, elegant, and far larger than any building on Earth. Elias stood silent for a moment, taking it all in. This was it. This was the future. He was no longer just a man returning from the stars. He was the bearer of hope. And he would do everything in his power to help change the fate of both worlds. With a deep breath, Elias followed the crew toward the hatch. The journey had just begun, and with it, the future of two worlds rested in his hands. For 26 seconds, Part 3, The Voyage Beyond. Captain Elias Mercer, now aboard the sleek spacecraft called the Stargazer, felt a calm excitement as he began his journey to Novara. The ship was designed with soft lights, gentle sounds, and a comfortable environment that made the long trip feel like a peaceful voyage through the stars. Every detail, from the polished metal walls to the large windows that offered views of the endless cosmos, reminded him that he was embarking on an adventure that went far beyond his small town on Earth. The journey was more than just traveling from one planet to another. It was a chance for Elias to learn about the vast universe and the many mysteries it held. Each day, he spent time exploring different parts of the ship. He walked through quiet corridors, passed by rooms filled with blinking instruments, and visited observation decks where he could watch clusters of stars, colorful nebulae, and distant galaxies shine in the dark. This exploration filled him with wonder and a deep sense of connection to the universe. Elias soon met the rest of the crew, a diverse group of beings who had come together from different parts of the galaxy. They were all friendly and eager to share their knowledge. One of them, Rena, was a skilled engineer from a planet famous for its inventors. With her gentle smile and careful hands. She explained how the ship's systems worked and helped Elias understand the technology that made the long voyage possible. Another crew member, Orin, served as the navigator. He had traveled through many star systems and knew the paths between planets like the back of his hand. Together, they made a strong team, united by a common purpose. Every day on board brought small adventures and new lessons. The crew gathered in a common area during their rest periods, sitting in comfortable chairs around a soft-lit table. There, they shared stories of their homelands. Rena talked about her planet where the sky would glow with shades of blue and green at dawn, and Orin described a water world with cities that floated on gentle waves. These stories made the vast spaceship feel warm and full of life, as if every being was a thread in a larger tapestry of hope and friendship. One morning, while the ship sailed through a beautiful stretch of space filled with shimmering cosmic dust, the crew noticed that something was different. The ship's sensors began to pick up unusual readings from the dust. It was not just ordinary space particles. It carried an ancient, soft energy that hinted at long-forgotten secrets. Elias gathered the crew and listened carefully to their observations. After a thoughtful discussion, they decided to change course slightly. They wanted to study the cosmic dust, as it might hold clues about the birth of stars and the history of the universe. This unexpected detour became a wonderful learning opportunity. The crew discovered that the dust had once been part of a bright star that had burst into light long ago. The explosion of that star had spread energy across space, giving life to new celestial objects. The crew worked together to collect data and samples. Each member played an important part in understanding this phenomenon. The shared experience of exploring this mystery brought the crew even closer as they marveled at the beauty of the cosmos and the timeless stories it held. During a quiet evening, when the ship sailed silently among the stars, Elias found a peaceful moment to reflect. He remembered his life on Earth, a simple life filled with small acts of kindness and everyday challenges. His thoughts also turned to Princess Alvara and her brave decree. He felt proud to represent Earth on this journey and believed that his role was important in creating a bond between two very different worlds. In the stillness of the observation deck, he gazed at the twinkling lights outside and felt hope for the future. In his private quarters, Elias kept a journal. Every evening, he would write about the small wonders of the day: the gentle hum of the ship's engines, the stunning view of a distant nebula, and the friendly conversations with his crew. His journal was written in simple words but carried deep feelings of hope and curiosity. Through his writings, he captured the spirit of his journey, a spirit that believed in learning, friendship, and the beauty of the unknown. Not every moment of the journey was smooth. At one point, the ship passed through a strange region of space where the usual order of stars and galaxies seemed to change. The familiar patterns of the night sky twisted into unexpected shapes, and a brief unease swept over the crew. Orin, with his calm expertise, studied the maps and charts stored in the ship's system. He explained that these unusual patterns were natural and that the region had a special kind of gravitational flow. With Orin's steady guidance, the crew worked together to navigate through the odd space, and soon they were back on their planned course. This challenge reminded them all that, even when the path seems uncertain, trust in one another can help overcome any obstacle. A few days later, the ship's communication system detected a soft, rhythmic signal coming from a distant source. The crew gathered around as the signal was carefully decoded. It turned out to be a friendly greeting from a small moon orbiting a nearby planet. The message was simple and kind, a reminder that life existed in many forms throughout the universe. Elias replied with a message of peace and friendship, and for a brief moment, the crew felt that the universe was truly a place where all beings could reach out and connect. By the time the stargazer neared the planet Novara, the journey had changed everyone on board. Each challenge, every moment of wonder, and every shared story had woven the crew into a close family. They celebrated their differences and found strength in unity, ready to face the future together. Captain Elias Mercer looked out at the approaching lights of Novara, knowing that the adventure was far from over. The voyage was not only a journey through space, but also a journey of growth, understanding, and hope. A journey that would soon lead him to a new beginning on a world filled with history, beauty, and promise. Captain Elias Mercer stood at the entrance of the Grand Palace on Novara, his heart filled with a mix of awe and nervous excitement. The palace, known as the Court of Stars, floated high above a glittering nebula. Its walls shimmered with patterns that resembled distant galaxies, and soft, colorful lights danced on every surface. Every step Elias took toward the palace deepened his sense of entering a world completely unlike his own, a world of ancient tradition and modern ambition. As he walked through the large, ornate entrance, Elias marveled at the intricate carvings on the walls. These carvings told stories of heroic deeds, long-forgotten battles, and moments of peace between worlds. The floor was made of smooth, polished stone that reflected the warm glow of floating orbs above. The air was filled with a gentle hum of conversation, and soft music played on instruments that produced sounds both strange and beautiful. It was as if the palace itself sang the praise of its past and future. Elias was soon greeted by a group of attendants who wore uniforms that shone with a quiet elegance. Their faces were kind, though their eyes held a mixture of curiosity and caution. They guided him through a long corridor lined with statues of famous leaders and wise scholars. Each statue seemed to watch over the visitors, silently affirming that all who came were under the careful eyes of Novara's history. At the end of the corridor, Elias entered a grand hall. The hall was vast and high, with a ceiling painted to look like a clear night sky full of sparkling stars. At the far end of the hall, seated on a raised platform, was Princess Alvera. She was dressed in a gown that flowed like liquid silver and held a crown that sparkled with tiny crystals, each reflecting the light of distant suns. The princess's eyes were warm and inviting, and her smile was gentle, yet full of determination. The hall fell silent as Elias approached. The princess rose gracefully and walked toward him. In her calm voice, she greeted him. "Welcome, Captain Mercer. We have long awaited your arrival." Her tone was both kind and confident, and even in this moment of formality, it was clear that she believed in the importance of this meeting. Elias bowed slightly, feeling the weight of the moment. He had read about Princess Alvera's bold decree and had dreamed of meeting her ever since he first heard of the alliance. Now, standing before her, he could see the strength and vision in her eyes. It was clear that her heart was open to change, and that she sought not only a partner in her personal journey, but also a bridge between two very different worlds. The court members, seated around the hall in a semicircle, watched the exchange with interest. They were scholars, warriors, and diplomats, each chosen for their wisdom and loyalty to the kingdom. They listened as the princess and Elias spoke, their words a mix of formal greetings and gentle introductions. Each word was carefully chosen, simple yet full of meaning, as both sides worked to understand one another despite the vast differences in language and culture. After the initial greetings, the princess invited Elias to sit beside her on a dais designed for guests of honor. The dais was carved with images of unity, a human hand clasped with an alien hand, symbols of two worlds joining together. The princess explained that this meeting was not only about a personal bond, but also about forging the lasting connection between Novara and Earth. She spoke of the need to learn from each other, to share wisdom, and to work together for a peaceful future. Elias listened intently, feeling both honored and humbled by the responsibility placed upon him. He spoke of Earth in simple terms, a planet of many challenges, but also a planet of hope, creativity, and strong community bonds. His words, though simple, carried a deep sincerity that resonated with those present. The court members exchanged glances, as if measuring the worth of this human candidate who now sat among them. Throughout the conversation, the princess and Elias made a conscious effort to bridge the gaps between their cultures. Alvera described the ancient traditions of Novara, the values of honor, wisdom, and mutual respect that had guided her people for centuries. Elias, in return, shared stories of Earth's struggles and triumphs, emphasizing the strength found in perseverance and the power of simple acts of kindness. The hall's ambient light shifted softly as the meeting continued into the evening. The princess called upon one of her trusted aides, a gentle scholar named Soren, to explain some of the deeper traditions of the court. Soren spoke of rituals that honored the stars and the cycles of life, traditions that had brought comfort and guidance to many generations. His words, though formal, were filled with a quiet warmth that made the ancient customs feel relevant to the present moment. During a short break in the formal proceedings, the members of the court mingled. Elias found himself in a small group with some of the younger diplomats. They asked him about Earth and listened with genuine interest as he described the landscapes, the oceans, and the simple joys of everyday life. Their curiosity was not judgmental, but filled with a desire to learn. This friendly exchange eased Elias's initial anxiety and made him feel accepted, even in this new and strange place. As the evening drew to a close, the princess rose once more and thanked Elias for his openness and honesty. She expressed her hope that this meeting would mark the beginning of a long and fruitful relationship between their peoples. In that moment, the Court of Stars transformed from a place of solemn tradition into a beacon of new possibilities. The idea that two very different worlds could find common ground filled everyone with a sense of wonder and anticipation for the future. Elias left the grand hall with his heart light and his mind full of hope. The experience had shown him that while traditions could be strong, they could also be the foundation for building a bridge to a brighter tomorrow. The meeting with Princess Alvera and her court had given him a glimpse into a future where unity and understanding shone as brightly as the stars above Novara. Nothing could prepare him for the political whispers and shifting allegiances that he encountered in the Court of Stars. Even though the palace adorned the skies above a glowing nebula, it was a place where hidden dangers lurked beneath the shining surface. In this new world, Elias was not just a human ambassador. He had become a symbol of change, and with that came both admiration and opposition. Princess Alvera had made her intentions clear, her desire to unite her people with Earth, to break away from the long-held traditions that had, in her eyes, shackled Novara's potential. Yet, not all members of the court shared her vision. There were whispers in the shadows, with some nobles resisting this unfamiliar connection. They questioned not only the wisdom of seeking the human partner, but also the very foundation of Alvera's new order. As Elias spent more time in the palace, he began to sense that the biggest challenge he had faced on this journey was not crossing the stars. It was winning the hearts of those who had the power to shape Novara's future. Some of the leading figures within the court were not convinced that Earth could bring anything of value to Novara. They believed that, for centuries, their traditions and isolated ways had kept their civilization strong. The first test came when an ancient ceremony was announced, a ritual that had long been practiced by the royal family. It symbolized unity, but in reality, it was a test of wisdom, balance, and the ruling family's strength. The princess had invited Elias to participate, but some court members were not pleased with the idea. They viewed the ceremony as far too sacred for someone from Earth to take part in, someone they considered too new, too unremarkable. Elias, ever the diplomat, understood that this wasn't just a test of his abilities, but a chance to prove to the court that humans, as unassuming as they might seem, had the heart and mind to foster unity among distant worlds. He was more than willing to take part, not out of pride, but to honor the Princess Alvera's vision of something larger, something that could bring Earth and Novara closer together for the sake of progress. The ceremony took place in a grand hall at the heart of the palace. The room was vast, tastefully decorated with sacred tapestries that depicted generations of stories about Novara's history and glory. The walls were lined with the noblest of Novara's leaders, those who had forged empires and overcome trials spanning eons. There stood Elias, a lone human boy in the midst of ancient tradition, yet with a quiet strength, determined to speak not with words, but through his direct actions. Princess Alvera stood beside him in her ceremonial gown that shimmered like the stars themselves. The moment the ceremony began, the courtyard grew quiet, and the reasoning behind this test became clear. Elias was to prove his ability to understand, adapt, and show intention with Novara's values. A challenge not of combat, but of wisdom and compassion. The first challenge set before them asked Elias to present a concept from Earth that celebrated unity. It was easy for him. He spoke of humanity's ability to come together during times of trial, to face their collective weaknesses and doubts. He spoke of the way Earth's people had at times set aside their differences, gender, race, even species, for the greater good. He shared a simple story from his childhood, a time when his whole village had worked together to build a new bridge for their town, uniting the community in ways they hadn't before. But it wasn't just sharing such stories that made an impression. It was how the nobility of Novara responded. Some could not hide the doubt in their eyes. Aurelius, the eldest member of the court, a respected leader who had seen more centuries than most, questioned Elias's words. "Can these things truly stand the test of time?" he asked. "How can simple stories of humans unite us?" The silence was palpable. Every eye in the room shifted between Elias and the elder. A murmur drifted among the noble spectators, uncertain of whether a human could indeed grasp the true meaning of unity. In response, Alvera stepped forward. True unity does not come from perfection. It comes from two different worlds choosing to accept each other. Elias Mercer speaks from his heart. He may be from Earth, a place far less advanced in ways we understand, but his words reflect one of humanity's greatest strengths, their ability to learn from one another, to grow, and to adapt. Her support was a small victory for Elias, yet he knew this was just the beginning of something even more difficult. The second test. The court demanded that the ceremony also test their resolve by throwing an obstacle in their path. They would stand before a celestial riddle, an ancient knowledge puzzle no one had solved in over 1,000 years. This riddle was not one of words, but one of even more profound importance, the riddle of balance. Tasked to meditate together in silence, the two would be judged according to how well they could solve it as one, how well they could work as true partners. It wasn't a riddle easily solved by logic alone. It required trust, mutual understanding, and respect. As they both meditated, with only soft hums of distant music surrounding them, Elias's mind began to wander. He thought of Earth, its flaws and its hopes. He thought of the princess and of the future she sought to build. Everything depended on balance. His thoughts began to flow, similar to rivers, merging seamlessly with Alvara's quiet thought process. In that moment, he knew they weren't just partners forced together by a decree. They were two beings, deciding what path to choose for the future. Their shared focus, and the calmness they both found in their combined thoughts, led them to the answer. It was not in mere strength or wisdom, as the riddle suggested, but in harmony between the disparate. When they shared their solution, the room fell to silence, and for the first time since his arrival, Elias could see the change in their eyes. They'd passed. Princess Alvera's eyes found his, and her smile was full of quiet satisfaction. She had boldly chosen a human, someone humble yet tenacious enough to dig deep into Novara's traditions. And together, they had succeeded. The trials weren't just meant to test Elias. They were meant to test the very alliance itself, whether it could hold in adversity, and if their bond could build bridges that even history could not break. The future of Novara and Earth would not be easy, but in that moment, the first real step toward unity had been made. For 32 seconds. Part 5. Trials of Unity. In the days following the Grand Court meeting, the seeds of change began to stir the entire palace. Captain Elias Mercer and Princess Alvera had inspired many with their words of unity and hope, yet not everyone embraced the new path. Deep in the heart of the palace, whispers of discontent grew among a few high-ranking officials. These elders clung to ancient traditions and feared that the alliance with Earth would erode the values that had kept Novara strong for generations. Late one morning, as the golden light streamed through the tall, arched windows of the palace corridors, a small group of influential council members met in a secluded chamber. Their hushed voices carried words of caution and doubt. "This union," one official said in a trembling tone, "will open our doors to unknown dangers. We must preserve our old ways." They planned to delay the union by sowing mistrust among the people and undermining the princess's decree. Their goal was not to harm Novara, they claimed, but to protect it from changes that might lead to chaos. At the same time, nature itself seemed to echo the unrest within the court. One clear evening, as the palace and its gardens basked in the soft glow of twin moons, the ground began to tremble ever so gently. The air pulsed with a strange energy, and colorful auroras danced across the sky above the palace. Citizens gathered in the courtyards, their eyes filled with both wonder and fear. Rumors spread quickly that this unusual display was a sign of displeasure from the ancient forces of Novara. Princess Alvara, ever wise and calm, called an emergency council meeting to address both the internal dissent and the mysterious cosmic events. In the spacious main hall, under a ceiling painted with starlight and swirling nebulae, she spoke clearly and kindly. "We face trials that test our strength and unity," she said, her voice resonating with quiet determination. "These events are not curses, but challenges. They are meant to remind us that change, though difficult, brings growth." Captain Elias stepped forward, his presence steady and reassuring. "I have seen many hardships on Earth," he said in simple, heartfelt words. "But I have also seen how people come together in times of trouble. We must join our hands and hearts to understand these events and overcome them together." The princess's words and Elias's calm tone began to ease the tension in the hall. They decided to address the challenges on two fronts. First, they sent trusted envoys to speak with the people in towns and villages across Novara. These envoys gathered the thoughts, concerns, and hopes of the citizens. In small public gatherings, common folk spoke of their fears about losing their identity, but they also expressed a willingness to embrace new ideas if they could be shown that the old traditions would be respected. Meanwhile, the royal scientists and engineers worked closely with experts from Earth, guided by Elias's simple yet effective approach, to study the unusual energy shifts outside the palace. They discovered that the tremors and shimmering lights were natural events, caused by a minor fluctuation in the planet's energy field. The phenomenon, though unexpected, was not dangerous and would subside in time. The scientists carefully explained their findings to the court, using clear language and simple demonstrations. This transparency helped to quiet many of the rising fears. Yet, even as the natural signs were explained, the secret group of dissenters continued their covert activities. One evening, under a sky heavy with the soft glow of distant stars, they met in a hidden hall beneath the palace. Their discussion turned from doubts to plans. They agreed to spread rumors that the Union and the energy shift were linked to dark omens, and that trusting in an outsider could lead to the downfall of Novara. They distributed whispered messages through trusted channels, hoping to widen the gap between those who believed in the old ways and those who embraced change. News of these rumors reached Princess Alvara through her network of loyal aides. With a heavy heart, she gathered her closest advisors and Captain Elias in a quiet, candlelit room. "I know that fear can make us doubt what we do not understand," she said softly. "But we must be brave and face these trials with open minds and united hearts. Our strength comes from learning from one another, not from clinging to fear." Elias nodded in agreement, adding, "On Earth, we have learned that challenges can bring people closer together when we stand as one. Let us show the people of Novara that our union is built on trust and the hope of a better tomorrow." Determined to restore confidence in the new alliance, Princess Alvara organized a series of public forums. In these gatherings, people of all ages were invited to speak, ask questions, and share their thoughts. The princess and Elias took the time to listen carefully to the concerns of the citizens. They explained how the union was not a break from tradition, but an evolution, a way to honor the past while welcoming the promise of the future. Slowly, the voices of doubt began to mix with voices of hope. In one memorable meeting held in the palace gardens, where the gentle night air was filled with the soft scent of alien flowers, a respected elder stood up to speak. His words were measured and kind as he recounted the great stories of Novara's history. "Our traditions have guided us well," he said, "but it is also our duty to learn and adapt. This union may be the key to our future strength." His speech, delivered in plain language that touched the hearts of many, marked a turning point in the discussions. More and more, even those who had doubted began to see that the trials were not meant to break them apart, but to make them stronger. Over the next few weeks, the natural energy disturbances gradually faded, and the palace returned to its familiar calm. The secret group's influence weakened as the truth about the energy shift spread among the people. In public meetings and through personal conversations, the citizens of Novara began to embrace the idea that unity between the old and the new was possible. They saw that fear and suspicion could be overcome through honest dialogue and shared experiences. In the end, the trials of unity served their purpose. The challenges had tested everyone's resolve, but they also brought the people closer together. Princess Alvera and Captain Elias Mercer had shown that by working side by side, even the most diverse worlds could find common ground. Their leadership turned a time of uncertainty into a foundation for a brighter future, a future where trust, understanding, and hope would guide all of Novara forward. As the palace slowly settled back into its peaceful routine, the people looked to the future with a renewed sense of purpose. The trials had passed, and in their place grew the promise of unity, a promise that would soon shine as brightly as the stars over Novara. The bright twin moons of Novara cast their silvery glow over the royal palace, painting soft shadows along its grand towers. The stars above twinkled like watchful eyes, witnessing the changes unfolding in the kingdom. Princess Alvera stood on the palace balcony, gazing at the vast sky. She could feel the shift in the air, not just the fading of old doubts, but the quiet birth of something new. In the days following the trials, a sense of peace had settled over Novara. The rumors and fears that once spread among the people had begun to fade. Instead, whispers of curiosity and cautious excitement took their place. The citizens spoke of Captain Elias Mercer, the human chosen by their princess, not as a stranger but as a symbol of possibility. Elias himself had changed during his time in Novara. He no longer felt like an outsider in an unfamiliar world. He had learned to appreciate the customs, the music, the stories, and even the small daily rituals of Novara's people. More importantly, he had come to understand their values, honor, tradition, and the deep respect they held for their ancestors. In return, he had shared with them the strength of humanity, the ability to adapt, to push forward despite challenges, and to form deep bonds of trust, even in the face of uncertainty. One evening, as Elias walked through the palace gardens, he was met by Princess Alvera. She wore a flowing blue gown that shimmered like the night sky, and her expression was thoughtful. "You have changed, Elias," she said with a soft smile. "When you first arrived, you were careful with your words, unsure of how to step into this world. But now you stand with confidence. You are no longer a guest. You are part of this story." Elias smiled back, looking around at the serene beauty of the garden. The gentle hum of glowing insects filled the air, and the scent of Novaran blossoms lingered. "It's strange," he admitted. "When I first set foot here, I thought I was only answering a call, a mission of diplomacy. But now, I see that this is much more. It's not just about you and me. It's about two worlds learning to walk together." Alvera nodded, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. "That is why I made my decree," she said, "to find a way forward, to break the walls that have kept us apart from others for so long. And I see now that I was right to trust in this path." As they continued their walk, they spoke not as a princess and a human ambassador, but as two souls bound by the same purpose. They discussed the future, the hopes of uniting their people, of blending the wisdom of Novara with the ingenuity of Earth. But even as progress was made, there were still challenges to overcome. While many of Novara's citizens had accepted the idea of unity, there were still those who hesitated. The elders, the traditionalists, the ones who had spent their lives believing that Novara should remain untouched by outside influence. These were the voices that needed to be heard and understood. To address this, the princess and Elias arranged a gathering in the heart of the city, a public meeting where all were welcome to speak. The great amphitheater of Novara had not been used for generations, but now it was filled with people from all walks of life. Merchants, scholars, warriors, farmers, and elders. Everyone had come to witness history. Princess Alvera stood before them with grace, her voice clear and strong. "My people," she began, "for many years we have lived by the wisdom of our ancestors. Their knowledge has guided us. Their traditions have shaped us. But today we stand on the edge of something new, a chance to grow, to learn, and to share what we know with others." Elias stepped forward, his voice steady. "I come from Earth, a world far different from Novara. We are not perfect. We have struggled, we have made mistakes, but we have also learned. What makes us strong is our ability to work together, to stand beside one another despite our differences. That is what I wish to bring here, not change for the sake of change, but the strength that comes from unity." There was silence at first. Then an elder stood up. His face was lined with years of wisdom, his voice slow but firm. "Change is difficult," he said, "but perhaps it is necessary." A younger merchant spoke next. "If this human can bring knowledge, if he can teach us something new, then should we not listen?" A warrior nodded. "Strength is not in isolation. Strength is in knowing when to stand alone and when to fight beside others." One by one, the voices rose, not in anger, but in understanding. The people of Novara were ready not to abandon their ways, but to embrace a future where they did not have to stand alone. As the meeting ended, Elias felt a deep sense of relief. This was not just a political agreement, it was the beginning of something far greater, a shared destiny. That night, as Elias stood once more on the palace balcony beside Alvera, he looked at the stars above and knew that his path had led him here for a reason. Novara and Earth would not be the same after this. They would grow together, learn together, and step into the unknown as allies. Princess Alvera turned to him, her voice gentle but filled with certainty. "Elias, our journey is just beginning." And as the stars watched over them, the promise of a new era shone brightly in the night sky. The great halls of Novara's royal palace were alive with anticipation. The air was filled with a quiet hum as the people of the kingdom gathered, waiting for the moment that would mark a new era. The grand courtyard, a place that had once been reserved for the most sacred ceremonies, was now filled with representatives from across Novara. Scholars, warriors, merchants, elders, and citizens of every background. Tonight, the alliance between Novara and Earth would be sealed, not just with words, but with action. Captain Elias Mercer stood at the center of it all, dressed in formal Novaran robes that had been tailored for him as a sign of respect. Though the fabric felt unfamiliar against his skin, he wore it with quiet confidence. Around him, familiar faces, Princess Alvera, the wise elders, the royal guards, and the people who had once doubted him, now looked at him not as an outsider, but as one of their own. The ceremony was not just a union between a princess and a human, but a declaration of unity between two worlds. A great stone platform had been set in the middle of the courtyard, engraved with symbols of Novara's past and the new cycle that would represent its future, a combination of Novaran artistry and Earth's emblem of unity. This moment would be remembered for generations. As the sky darkened and the stars shone brighter, Princess Alvera stepped forward. She was dressed in a gown woven with the shimmering threads of Novaran silk, designed to resemble the swirling galaxies above. She stood tall, her golden eyes reflecting the firelight from the ceremonial torches. With a voice both firm and warm, she addressed her people. "We stand here today, not to erase our traditions, but to honor them in a new way," she said. "For centuries, we have remained in the safety of our own world, believing that our strength lay in isolation. But today, we take a step forward. We embrace the unknown. We welcome change, not as a threat, but as an opportunity." A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. The resistance that had once filled the palace had faded, replaced by cautious hope. Elias took a deep breath and stepped beside her. He looked at the faces before him, some young, some old, some still uncertain, but all watching him with expectation. He spoke with the same honesty that had brought him this far. "I come from Earth, a world full of challenges, just like yours," he began. "We are not perfect, but we learn. We make mistakes, but we grow. And what I have learned here on Novara is that true strength is not in standing alone, but in standing together. We are different, yes, but that does not mean we cannot share, learn, and build something greater than either of us could achieve alone." A long pause followed. Then, from the back of the crowd, a voice called out, "Together." A ripple of agreement spread through the audience. The people of Novara, who had once feared change, were now embracing it. One by one, they raised their hands in a gesture of unity. It was not just a symbolic act. It was a promise. With the formal words spoken, Princess Alvera took Elias's hand in hers, a gesture of trust and alliance. The final part of the ceremony involved the lighting of the eternal flame, a Novaran tradition that symbolized new beginnings. The flame had burned in the palace for centuries, representing the wisdom of the ancestors. Tonight, it would be used to light a new beacon, one that would stand as a reminder of this moment in history. Together, Alvera and Elias walked to the ceremonial brazier. The flame flickered in the evening air, waiting for its purpose. With steady hands, they lowered the torch into the beacon, and a bright golden fire roared to life, sending a warm glow across the courtyard. A great cheer erupted from the crowd. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was bearing witness to the union of two worlds. From that moment on, everything changed. In the days that followed, delegations from Earth and Novara worked together to establish embassies, cultural exchanges, and shared knowledge projects. Scientists collaborated on new discoveries, historians documented the significance of this alliance, and traders discussed the possibilities of interstellar commerce. Elias became a bridge between the two worlds, traveling between Earth and Novara, ensuring that their bond remained strong. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a part of something far greater. Princess Alvara, now recognized as a leader of vision and courage, continued to guide her people into this new era. She knew that challenges would still come, that not every moment would be easy, but she also knew that they had taken the first step toward a brighter future. One evening, as she stood on the balcony of the palace, looking up at the stars, Elias joined her. The two stood in silence for a while, watching the endless sky stretch before them. "Do you ever wonder what else is out there?" Elias asked, a small smile on his lips. Alvera nodded. "Yes, and now, I know we won't face it alone." As the two gazed out into the vast unknown, the lights of the beacon still burned brightly in the courtyard below, a symbol of unity, of courage, and of a future built together. And so, a new galactic era began.